Today is Saturday, the somethingth after my birthday. My birthday was the 13th, and I don't know what the date is today, but you know, who really cares? Working on this go-kart. The differential on the axle that was on here busted in half. And so I looked in my stuff, and I had a 1-inch shaft. And anyway, the setup on here before, there was a bronze bushing that acted as the, well, it was a bearing. Those were just trashed. Those were worn out bad. So I bought some pillow block bearings. I had them mounted up here. Wasn't even thinking. I put the axle there, and the top of the tire comes up, you know, to about here. And so I forgot that the old system, which I'll show you. Here's the sprocket. So the sprocket I have on there is slightly larger. This right here bolted up to the differential. There's your brake drum. And these are those bronze bushings. See how that's what it's supposed to look like, the thickness of it. On this side, it's just wore right down to nothing. So where I have the pillow block, there used to be an angle iron that this mounted to. So you can see how much it brought the axle down. And that's probably about 3 inches. I made it 3.5 inches to make up for the larger diameter sprocket. And let's see. You can see these washers that I had to stack there. Before that, I just had this mounted right up close to there. And my chain was too loose. I couldn't remove another link because then it would be too short, and I didn't have any adjustment anywhere whatsoever. I bought, I'll go back over here. I bought this little sprocket and pressed this flange bearing in there. And I was going to make a tension sprocket. That would have, it would have slipped in here nicely over here to put tension on the sprocket there, or the chain rather. But look at how cramped that is. I'd have to take the engine off. This fender is in the way of drilling. I didn't want to mess with it. So that's why I thought, you know what? I put a spacer underneath. No, you won't be able to see, it's shadowy. Anyway, I put a spacer, and I put one underneath that pillow block bearing on both sides to bring this up, because the chain kept hopping off. Because there's no adjustment anywhere on this. This was all boogered together by somebody. That style of pillow block doesn't have the slots on it like these do, so you can't move them back and forth. The engine is just mounted right to this plate through a hole. There's no slot there, so that left no adjustment whatsoever. The alternative to these stacked up washers would be to slot this. This is not welded on, but I don't really have enough room to make the slot. So then I thought, well, why not put some spacers in there like I did up there, and then it should work. I would rather have one spacer instead of stacking washers. I just don't like stacking washers when I could just have a spacer, but I don't have a spacer. I checked the hardware store and I don't have anything like that. So I stacked washers, and it works. Right now, the chain is too loose, but well, that will slide. It's just getting caught on the, maybe have this nut. Anyway, oh, I see, it's tightening the chain, and that's what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to put everything back together, get it tightened down, and we'll be able to go for a spin. We don't have any brakes right now whatsoever, but we weren't using them before, so no big deal. You can always use a tree or the house to stop us. I measured, and this is not perfect science, but it's close enough for who it's for. I put the tape measure up to that tire, not on the knobby, but right in there, and then brought it to the center of the axle here, and it's exactly the same on both sides. So I was happy about that. I was concerned that it was going to be winky, wanky, wonky, and dog tracking, because that's how I roll normally, but that worked out good. So now it's just a matter of putting everything back together, and let's see what we come up with. Oh, one more thing I got to do before we go for a ride is I'm going to have to drill a hole and put in a pin somewhere so that the axle can't slide back and forth that way. That's what I got to do. All right, so we're about as done as we're going to go for now. We just need to try to squeeze in disc brakes or drum, whichever we find. I got the pins put in. There's one here and then one there so the axle don't slide. And one other problem is we're getting some binding here. And I think what it is the engine is probably sitting on an angle. But whoever built this didn't put slots in, so there probably isn't a whole lot of play. I think that it should actually be brought this way a little bit. So whenever I get bored and need something to do, I might see if there's just enough slop to maybe turn that a little bit. But for now, we're going to fire it up and see if we can't go for a spin. Well, I finally got this done as far as I'm going to go until we get brakes for it, which we really need because a lot of times we're using an object to stop. Run into the basketball pole, you know, come to a coast and then just bumping up to it. But I can't remember what I said on my other clips before this, but there's chain adjustment, forward and backward down there at the pillow block. What did I do for that? I did something. I don't remember, but anyway, I must have slotted that tubing or something. I ran a bolt through this hub so that that's stationary and won't spin, because set screws are not gonna stop that from spinning. That's a new chain down there. We did put a new chain up here. The old one was pretty bad. This go-kart's been around for a long time. Obviously homemade. I mean, some of their welds don't look too bad, but then some of them are boogered up pretty good. Let's see. What else? I don't know if I ever mentioned, but the wheel hubs there used to be 3/4 inch ID, I think. My brother took them, just the hubs, to his place of work, and he was able to bore it out to 1 inch for me. So I took the engine off and drilled those holes out bigger so that I could turn the engine left or right or whatever I needed to do to get it lined, the clutch lined up with the jack shaft sprocket so that it was fairly straight. And everything's working pretty good. The only thing that I really need to do is take that governor out, and I might just well go ahead and do it because I see an oil leak. So I guess that's the next thing. But that's the go-kart for now, and I'm gonna ask my brother what he thinks about removing. Let me turn this other light off. removing this bar, this one, the upper part down to here. Leave this part here that covers the engine. You can see a gap right here, right here, because that was in the way for this Predator engine. Whatever they had on there before must have been pretty small. So I think what I'll have to do is I'll make something come out here and then down and connect to there, and that would strengthen that back up if I remove the top. And there's no chance of this thing, the way that it is, rolling over. And my kids don't ride it that way. Well, I do, but they don't. So that's where we're at on this thing. And you can see we have furniture. We pulled these from our dumpster spot. That one there, pretty decent couch, and then we got 2 recliners behind that. So this one needs a few places stitched. Like those pillows are sewed right to the back, so over the course of time they'll start coming apart. And my daughter is our seamstress. She'll fix us up there. So that's about all this morning. I got a mess to clean up. We'll see you later.